The New York Knicks fall to the Detroit Pistons. Doesn't mean anything. We'll get into that in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Gavin, Schall, your Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. He's Alex Wolfe, editor-in-chief of the Strickland, the greatest Knicks website in the whole wide world. You can check them out on all forms of social media at thestrick.land. You are, of course, Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily, sometimes more than daily podcast. And the New York Knicks give you the most detailed insight on your favorite team 5 days a week. And be sure to join thousands of other Knicks fans in subscribing on both YouTube and your favorite podcast platform for the best insight on your favorite team every single day. And then if you're a real sicko and you want to take it to the next level, well, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Knicks daily newsletter, the one-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. You can sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And you can start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. You get writing from Alex and I, team of national writers here at Locked On, and of course, Josh Lloyd helping you win your fantasy basketball league all throughout the playoffs. And if you sign up between April 7th and I believe April 30th, I'll confirm at the end of the episode, you can win a prize, which we will get into at the end of the episode. So we'll talk about that. But what we are going to get into on today's show, Alex, is a loss to the Pistons and whether or not it means anything when the Knicks sat OG Anunoby, sat Josh Hart, sat Mitchell Robinson, as you pointed out, played PJ Tucker, who should be in a retirement home, 26 minutes. So we're going to debate that. And we're going to get into all of it. But first, we want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Alex, Knicks lose to the Pistons. Something or nothing?
I'm going nothing. I think it felt pretty obvious to me that they didn't seem super invested in this game. I mean, if you need proof positive, it's, again, 26 minutes out of PJ Tucker and not playing OG or Hart or Mitch, I think tells you everything you need to know. I think maybe they're we'll see if Cleveland is circling the game at all, or if they're going to rest a bunch of people too. But it feels more like the Knicks are probably circling the Cleveland game of like, let's try to get that win rather than the Detroit one. I'm not denying that they were trying to win the game. I think that they were to an extent, but I think when the wheels were falling off down the stretch, there wasn't really any sense of urgency. And, I saw a lot of people on Twitter or whatever being like, they're soft. I'm so worried, blah, blah, blah. I don't fully disagree that the team is softer than last year's team. That said, I don't know that this was the game that I would be like hitting alarm buttons over. It's almost a meaningless game. I mean, we were running the numbers before we started recording. Like, technically there's still a world where Detroit can leapfrog Milwaukee, which they were probably really motivated to do. I'm sure that they would like a 4-5 matchup more than a 3-6 matchup. And then, the Knicks still have to win one of their final two games, or the Pacers have to lose one of their final two games to lock the Knicks in as the 3 seed. But it feels pretty likely, hopefully, that if the Knicks had to, if they were really motivated to hold on to that 3 seed and they had to go all out against Brooklyn in the final game of the season, you would think they'd be able to pull that one out and secure that 3 seed if they really feel passionate about it. So it just didn't feel super consequential to me. Maybe this is, I don't know, like, I don't even know where my overall brain space is for this team right now, because like the other day I was legitimately like pretty annoyed that they lost to Boston and really wanted that game and whatever. And this game, I kind of, as things were falling apart down the stretch, I was just like, I don't care. I literally could not care less about this game. I think it was game 80 of 82. Just get me to the freaking playoffs already. Like, I just want to see what this team does in the playoffs. And that's going to be what we ultimately judge them on, not game 80 against the Pistons. And this just, I don't know, even if it is their first round playoff matchup, I think the Knicks showed that minus 3 of their best players, they were still able to have a lead on this team late in the game. And then it just kind of fell apart and guys can hit shots and whatever. And that was that. But, I think if you have an OG Anunoby out there and you have a Josh Hart out there and you have a Mitchell Robinson out there, I kind of doubt that happens over the case of a 7-game series. Maybe that's foolish hubris on my part, but that's kind of just how I'm feeling at this particular juncture.
Yeah, I'm kind of two minds. I think I watch the game as a whole and I come away in the exact same place as you. And to your point, the fact that PJ was out there for 26 minutes, like the Knicks opened the fourth quarter, like just like Detroit. I mean, the Knicks led from about halfway through the first quarter when it was 26-24 until like 7.5 minutes, 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And you saw the Knicks just repeatedly getting bullied off the dribble. And normally that would be like a 5-alarm fire. Like to your point, this team's too big, this team's too physical. And then you realize 60% of the guys on the floor, Landry Shamet, and it was Precious Achiuwa, and I think PJ was the other one. I need to get back to my notes. This was fourth quarter. It was Shamet. It was Shamet, PJ, and Precious. I'm sorry, Shamet, Wright, and Precious were all on the floor. And none of those guys are going to be in the Knicks playoff rotation. So you're like, all right, how much do I read into that? I don't know. Maybe I read into it all a tiny bit because as I mentioned on the pod with Koo the other day, Detroit now over the last 52 games, I can imagine only went up tonight. They are top 5 in the NBA in net rating. They are the 5th best defense, 9th best offense over that stretch. Like that is a extremely large sample size of a team that profiles as like borderline, like a conference finals type of team. Do I think Detroit with their experience and talent level will get that far? No, not really. But I do think, and I said to you before the show, like they remind me a little bit of the Knicks the past couple of years. And then we were debating if they were closer to the 2021 COVID year, Julius Randle miracle Knicks that were not a very real playoff threat, or the Knicks of the last 2 years that won first round series and then were very tough second round outs, because like they are tough, they are physical, they are big across the board. And I think in Cade Cunningham, they do have someone who is capable of matching Jalen Brunson shot for shot. And at least in this game, I thought was dramatically better than Brunson down the stretch. The fourth quarter execution, I saw our guy Benji reference on Twitter that like he wouldn't think anyone was crazy for thinking it was a stealth tank job, because the finish for the Knicks was just so bizarre in this game. And you saw Brunson, I think, like forcing stuff and making mistakes you don't typically see him make. And that maybe that's just his like reacclimation. But I thought this was honestly more analogous to the Brunson we saw in that first Cleveland game of the year and the first couple games of the season, where he just sort of snapped into hero ball. There was no spacing. The Pistons were basically packing in their defense. They had like 3 guys around Brunson every time he drove. And Brunson, instead of just getting off the basketball, was forcing the issue. And like Mikal, like that's another one of something like I think might be real from this game. Like he did nothing down the stretch, and he seemed really bothered by Detroit's physicality defensively. Cat at times was bothered by Detroit's physicality. So I do think there were some red flags. I also think, again, in a game where you had Deuce guarding Cade the whole time, like how much do you read into that when he's not going to be guarding Cade the entire series? I would presume, if they actually play.
Yeah, and I saw some of the same stuff, like in terms of the physicality and whatever. And it kind of just it did once again bring up a little bit of the concern of like down the stretch of games against good teams, like Mikal is kind of faded this year a bit. And so he did make he had a couple like layups at different. I'm trying to remember when his last field goal made was. It was probably, I mean,
It
I
was
have
like
very
early.
easy.
I think it was third quarter. I can double check that.
It was the third quarter, yeah. With 2:12 left in the third quarter, he made his final field goal. So I mean, that's a little concerning. Cat, like I think more so than anything, like maybe he looked like he was getting bothered by size a little bit again, but like I didn't really think so. I thought that he muscled his way in pretty well. I mean, it was mostly again just like this weird reluctance to have him shoot threes anymore. And it almost seemed intentional. Like the one whoever I think it was our buddy Jeff was on Strickland Twitter tonight that pulled this clip, but someone on our Twitter pulled the clip of like a nice little Brunson and Cat pick and roll, and instead of just running a normal pick and pop to the 3-point line, it's like Cat pops to just above the free throw line, and it's like not only does that clog things up in the middle when Brunson's trying to get in there, but then it doesn't give Cat the opportunity to cash in on a 3-point shot, instead just a 2-point shot. And it's just like, it doesn't make any sense. So there was some befuddling stuff with how the offense was running. Like, again, I kind of feel bad for Cat. Like pretty damn efficient night. 10 and 19 shooting, like 5 of 5 from the free throw line. He has 25 points, but like he could have probably had like 35 to 40 in this game if he took like 6 or 7 threes, like, and was able to shoot those at the level that he was hitting other shots. So I don't know, just a little weird again, like how they're approaching the offense, and the way, if you're a more finesse team like the Knicks are on offense for the most part, like if you're trying to finesse your way through a game, like the way to do that is with spacing and with making and taking threes. And they didn't do a lot of that. Like you have to, if you're facing a physical team that's going to kick the crap out of you on the inside, you have to draw them away from the inside so that you don't get the crap kicked out of you. It's like, I don't know. It was a little backwards to me, but maybe we continue talking about that in just a second. I can keep talking through some guys. Nice maybe talk through the PJ Tucker night. I mean, I don't know. You don't ideally want PJ Tucker playing 26 minutes in any game at age 39 or whatever, but he played pretty well. So maybe we'll talk about him in a minute. Talk about Precious Achiuwa, who played pretty well. Although you could argue it's because he was getting basically ignored on offense for the most part. But either way, we'll talk through all that and more and continue through this game in just a sec.
But first, we want to tell you about our good friends over at DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Here's a few ways you can take advantage. Perhaps a game day feast after an epic 50-point performance. Celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot, delivered straight to your door. Also, late night cravings. Alex, I don't know about you. I get a lot of late night cravings. Whether you're staying up, watching highlights, or just need a midnight snack, use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving you big. Or you can fuel your watch party. If you're playing the Cats the next game, order your go-to snacks and meals at a discount and get ready for more high-scoring action. So sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game. On eligible orders at participating merchants must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. All right, what's up, guys? We are back talking through Knicks Pistons, whether or not it means a single thing. How about we start off with Cap? Because I think, again, I come away from this game with maybe like a slightly different opinion than you. Like he was efficient, and at times, like, I think this is where I'm a little unfair to Cat, is that, like, I think I tend to zoom in on the negatives, and a lot of times I forgive or ignore Brunson's negatives. Like he was the Knicks offense. Like they were right around 4.5 minutes in the fourth quarter without a bucket, and Cat scored their final 7 points, and he was like the only guy down the stretch who had a prayer. Defensively, I thought it was a mixed bag from him. I thought Alan Hahn was like unfairly blaming him at the beginning at least on the third one when Jalen Duren was just living at the rim at the beginning of this game. And Tom Thibodeau, we saw him like mix it up and make a fairly important adjustment where after like the third game of the season, Cat was in drop, and we watched Cade hit rain 3 after 3 after 3. And by the time the Knicks adjusted, it was a little bit too late. And at that point, like, Cade was in such a rhythm, like there wasn't much to do. So this game, give Tibbs some credit, starts Cat at the level. And then Alan Hahn is going on there and saying, yeah, Cat's got to keep an eye on the ball. He has to be in position to stop that roll. If he's at the level, he cannot be in two places at once. He cannot also be guarding Jalen Duren on the roll. You need Precious Achiuwa, because he was the guy in the game, like rotating over from the backside, making a play. Precious instead was inexplicably attached to Asar Thompson. So Jalen Duren got a dunk there. I think, to your point, that's something with OG Anunoby. If he's not on Cade Cunningham, he's your backside rim protector. If he is on Cade Cunningham, maybe you just switch that and you let OG switch onto Duren. Again, like you are going to run into some problems with Cat guarding Cade like game after game, and maybe Cat gets into some foul trouble, but that's presumably preferable than giving like walk down the lane dunks, because the Knicks, like, once Cade got going, and it was mostly because Deuce, who made a lot of great plays off the ball, was just a little too small on the ball, and Cade could just sort of rise up over him. Like, the Knicks had no answer. Like, they were doubling, he would generate open threes, single coverage, he was getting to his spots and hitting jumpers. So to me, like, I think the combination of Detroit's length and physicality defensively, and the fact that like Cade is like perfectly capable of being the best player in a series with Jalen Brunson in it, that's probably the scariest part. The other tough part in this game for Cat was the turnovers. He had 7 of them, like a bunch of just really frustrating throwaways, like including one that was right after a great precious steal, like mid fourth quarter, that like kind of like, not that the Knicks had momentum, but when you're trying to come back, I thought that was just a backbreaker. Did have some really nice drives, got stonewalled by Isaiah Stewart. One play that intrigued me, there was a Mikal Cat pick and roll, and Mikal just sort of jumped, threw it over the top to Cat. Cat dove for a dunk. I would love to see more of that. That's a pass Mikal can make that Brunson often can't, just because of his height. We also saw Cat get a corner 3, which was only his 8th of the year off an inbounds play. So that was cool. So mixed bag, I thought, for Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah, I wasn't in love with the turnovers either. I mean, one of them, I think you probably, in my opinion, you could have subtracted one of the turnovers. I don't understand what the offensive foul call was. Like there was he set what looked to be a pretty reasonable screen. Like he didn't add any extra motion to it or try to absorb any more content. He just set a good screen and Ron Holland fell over on it and they called it. And I think maybe that got under his skin a bit. It did seem like he sort of something flipped at that moment where he seemed to be a little less involved in the game, like after some of the calls like that. But whatever, you got to fight through it. But maybe he's sort of the same mind as me at this point of like, just get me to the freaking playoffs already. Like we're done with the regular season. These games are like not totally meaningless, but very nearly at this point, at least from the Knicks perspective. May as well shout out PJ Tucker real quick for his efforts in this one. 3 points, 6 boards, played 27 minutes. Again, I don't think I would have ever expected to see PJ Tucker playing 27 minutes and being the leading minute man off the bench, but here we are. I thought it was pretty good. I don't know. Mostly he was kind of just out there to like troll a bit and like be physical, I guess.
Yeah.
Like probably his most memorable moment of the game was a few plays prior, Dennis Schroeder had like run into Brunson and then tried to like act all like tough about it and be like, why'd you fall over? What? It's like, bro, you ran into him, like obviously, and then like tried to just stand over him, and then like I think it was Precious was trying to come over and help him up and kind of like just like jostled Schroeder out of the way, and he tried to like play the tough guy again, like stay there like staring Brunson down and whatever. And so then the next time Schroeder hit the floor on the sideline, Tucker was right there to get separated by the ref immediately, but go over and like stand over Schroeder and just stand there for a minute. So that was funny. He got rebounds. He made a corner 3, which was cool. Cool. Yeah. Otherwise, he just was kind of physical. Like he was jostling with Isaiah Stewart a bit, which was nice to see. I mean, nice to know that the Knicks have someone that they can kind of just throw out there like a 4th line hockey goon to go out there and just like beat up Isaiah Stewart for a few minutes and not care if he gets fouls or whatever. So maybe there is a chance that he makes a small appearance if these two meet in the playoffs, just to kind of go out there and check these guys a little bit. But other than that, nice little turn the clock back performance, I guess. And he did kind of some PJ Tucker things, and albeit a 39-year-old version of himself, but still kind of cool getting to see that him look more like himself in a Knicks uniform for the first time ever, which is pretty cool.
Maybe it was a testament to just how tough of a watch this game was, but I loved Alan Hahn just going crazy when he made the corner 3. He was like, oh, that is vintage PJ Tucker. If you don't know him, he's the corner king. And I'm like, I think he's PJ Tucker is a good corner 3-point shooter. I think it's more so been that like at least like after like age 30 or so with him, that was pretty much his only offensive utility on top of some offensive rebounds and some hard screens.
It would be like freaking out over seeing like Jay Crowder make a shot, right? Like it's like the same thing. It's like, oh, career role player makes a corner 3, sick. Like he was acting like it was like Kobe or something.
Yeah, he was like, and it was almost like PJ Tucker was like someone who spent 15 years on the Knicks and then made his way back, and he's like, oh, after a long journey, PJ is home. Like, look, if Taj Gibson comes back at age 55 and makes a corner 3, go for it. But I don't know. I thought that was funny. All right, let's hit Jalen Brunson real quick, because we're still early in the in having him back in our life, and it's great. I thought he was awesome in this game in the first quarter. Pistons started Cade Cunningham on him, which I thought was weird. I don't really know what to take away from that. I think it's going to be Asar Thompson guarding him for the most part, and I think for most of the game, Asar Thompson did end up guarding him. But couple of nice drives, hit pressures, some like a little double pump pass out of a screen for layup, help pressures to a career high in the first quarter. Nice drive on Cade at one point. Like Cade was trying to bump him with his strength, and Brunson was like lower center gravity, and I'm a bull, brother. Like, and just got to the basket and laid it in. First play going up against Asar. I don't know if they've gotten a matchup this year because Asar was hurt early season. Put a tough step back jumper in his eye. Like he was just cooking early first. Couple of nice defensive plays, stripping Harris in the post, stripping Asar in the post. One play I did note was Asar Thompson flying out of nowhere to block his three. That is something that both Thompson brothers are better at maybe anyone in the NBA than, like making you think you have an open three. And then just because they are like 100th percentile athletes, like jumping and getting a hand on it. And Brunson is obviously kind of small, has kind of a slow release. Like I'm curious how many threes he's able to get up a game. If they play the Pistons, he shot 12 the other night against the Celtics, and he got up 9 in this one. But just something I'm looking at. And then we already talked about it a little bit, but I thought he was just terrible down the stretch of this game. Like bricked an ISO 3 against Holland, missed another 3 with 35 seconds left after Deuce got the steal that would have cut it to a 2-point game. Then misses 2 free throws. Like maybe I don't know if the second one was intentional to try to let his guys get a rebound, but weirdly dismal performance from Jalen after he was really good down the stretch against the Celtics. That was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, not exactly a game to put on his resume for clutch player of the year, right? Definitely the antithesis. It was maybe we'll call it the exception to prove the rule. In terms of Jalen being clutch, it's just not going to be there every single night. But yeah, I agree. It's just kind of it just gave you that weird. You don't normally want or have that feeling of dread with Brunson down the stretch, but there was something with every time I left his fingers, the shots down the stretch, I was just like, I don't think that's going in. Like, this just doesn't feel like it's meant to be on this particular game. One guy who did a pretty good job hitting some shots down the stretch, and who I'm going to make just a quick case for at the beginning of next segment is Landry Shamet, who I think made some key shots down the stretch and proved that maybe he could be that one stabilizing 3-point making dude for the Knicks in the playoffs. So we'll talk about that in just a moment, plus some final notes on this game to close out this episode when we get back in. But first, I got to let you know about our friends over at Game Time. There's nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching a last-minute MLB showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA matchup. But finding great seats at a great price, that used to be a challenge until I found Game Time. Game Time makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the event gets closer, and with their all-in pricing, you see the total cost up front with no surprises at checkout. And here's why I love using Game Time. You can get last-minute deals, save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Hey, if you happen to be in the Manhattan area during Knicks playoff time, keep an eye on Game Time. You might be able to snag a better deal than you think to get in the building. Maybe even better than face value, because I was looking during the presale and they were crazy expensive. It was like minimum $400 to get in the building. So maybe you could find something better. I'm not promising anything, but if there's anywhere you could, it would be on Game Time. Keep your eyes on it. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. See, even more savings. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Gavin, we're back to finish talking through this 115-106 loss to the Pistons, technically keeping the Knicks still in the danger zone for the 4 seed for the playoffs.
The heaven zone, I would call it. Let's go. Let's go get a 4 seed, boys. Come on.
I guess it depends. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I go back and forth on whether I prefer to face the Pistons or the Bucks, because it's like you either face Giannis peaking at the worst possible time if you're going to face him in the playoffs, albeit with a much depleted team, or a young, hungry, physical team in the Pistons.
But also Cavs versus Celtics in second round potentially.
True. Yeah. I'm I don't know. Maybe I'm like getting a little pessimistic. I'm beyond counting those chickens at this point.
Yeah, that's what, that's smart. That's for the sake of rival podcast not replaying this clip. That is a really smart thing to note.
Yeah, I'm starting to just be like, you know what? Let's just pump the brakes. Let's just see this team in the playoffs first. But
Yeah.
a guy I hope maybe we get to see a little bit in the playoffs. Maybe not for a ton of minutes, 7, 8, 10, whatever minutes a game. Landry Shamet, I think, just continued to show that he is arguably the hottest shooter on this team right now as far as shooting from three. Down the stretch of this game when things were starting to slip away but it looked like the Knicks still could potentially pull this one out. He hit two absolutely clutch threes, both from the right hand side of the court. One of them like sort of falling away again, which is like becoming like his like signature shot of like being in motion towards the corner and then catching it like on his way there and then just kind of floating while he shoots it and making that shot from there. It really just pretty shot making from him right now. I think we've seen so many times with various guys, whether it was, I mean, if we want to go all the way back, we were mentioning 20 to 21, whether it was like quickly in 20 to 21 or like Grimes a couple years ago against the Heat or, even DiVincenzo at stretches last year. Like it seems like there's always just a chance that the guy that you most think is going to make threes for the Knicks in the playoffs just goes completely cold. And maybe that ends up being OG. Maybe that ends up being Mikal. Maybe that ends up being Brunson this year. It always happens. You're always going to have at least one game where people get inexplicably cold and then you need someone else to step up. I'm starting to feel like Shamet is that like breaking case of emergency guy that like maybe Tibbs should just keep in the back of his mind for like, hey, it's like the end of the third quarter. The other team's going on a run. We can't hit a freaking shot right now. Maybe let's throw Shamet in there for like 2 minutes, see if he can hit like 2 threes, and then we can get him out somewhat quickly or whatever. But he's just got the ratchet going right now. I don't know. I really like what we're seeing out of his shot. And I've said this before, but I don't think he's really losing you too much in any other aspect of his minutes right now. Maybe he's not giving you the most physically imposing defense or whatever, but he's at least getting hands around. Sometimes he gets blown by a little bit, but like all in all, I feel like almost every game I look at his plus minus, he's generally a positive in his time on the court. So I'm down to potentially give him a playoff role. I think I don't know, it's such a small takeaway, but that was one of the only things that I looked at in this one and was like, oh, that's a thing to maybe keep in mind for the playoffs is that like this guy just can't miss right now from three, and that could be potentially pretty valuable.
Yeah, I think before tonight I would have pushed back on this because we talked about it a little in the Celtics pod. Like he's getting cooked defensively. Like Pritchard blew by him twice. Hauser beat him backdoor for a layup tonight. Malik Beasley of all people was doing it too small to him, and Malik Beasley's like my height and weight, so that's not great if you're Landry Shamet. But I think the Knicks are honestly just desperate for shooting. Like we saw Detroit again basically play like a pack the paint like 70s or 80s Jordan rules style of defense in this game. Um and the Knicks did not have a lot of answers for it. And I think we've consistently seen good defenses do that against the Knicks because they're counting on two things. The Knicks shooters aren't good enough to really burn them. And even beyond that, like Brunson and Cat, the two initiators of this offense, are not very good at driving and kicking. So like they might not even make the pass, even if they drive and three guys are around them. And you know what? That paid off for Detroit today. It's paid off a bunch of times this year for Cleveland, for Oklahoma City, for Boston. So having another shooter, and to your point, probably the best one on this team right now on a night where Deuce McBride, as much as I love the guy and as much as like I'll note some of the good stuff he did in this game, shot 2 for 10 from three. Jalen Brunson shot 3 for 9. You get 2 for 3 from Shamet. I would love to see Landry Shamet in 15 minutes. You don't get up 7 threes, my guy. Like what else is happening when you have like the PJ Tucker, DeLon Wright campaign lineup that they had out there? Like they were just throwing like they're like basically like 9th through 13th guys on the floor, like shoot away. So yeah, I could definitely be talked into Landry Shamet having a bigger playoff role than I anticipated. I'm going to hit Mikal Bridges real quick, and then how about we finish up with some Precious Achiuwa. I think this was another slightly disappointing game, and that feels weird, right? Because the stat line was good. 33 minutes, 7 of 10, 17 points, 7 assists, did some really good stuff in this game. Like the off-ball stuff continues to be good. Like hit a 3 off a nice catch, off a drive from Deuce. One of his best dribble moves of the night, rejected a screen, has that like when he's really feeling himself, starts going to that push dribble where he just launches it ahead, hit a fadeaway banker off of that. Had a gorgeous transition jumper where he did like the MJ like splayed legs on it. The shot over Craig Elo to beat Cleveland. That was beautiful. I mentioned the PNR assist to Karl-Anthony Towns. But Alex, like down the stretch of these games, like just not a lot of juice on the ball. And again, typically, I'm sorry, everyone, you can take a shot at home. Like when you trade 5 first-round picks for a guy, you expect them to be able to throw them the ball and let them go to work a little bit at the end of the game and get a good result. That is pretty clearly against good defense is not really Mikal Bridges' game. And again, like he could be helped by like running him off the screen, but Tibbs tried to do that at least on the ball. He had cat screen for him. Mikal got nowhere, and it absolutely murdered a possession late in this game. So I'm still just a little disappointed with that. Also struggled to guard Dennis Schroeder down the stretch of this game. Maybe that's not the best matchup for him. Tobias Harris also kind of bullied him for a banker. Like tough fourth quarter after what was like a pretty efficient Mikal Bridges game.
Yeah, it is a little concerning that he's the last couple games had trouble with bigger wing players, and it does make you wonder, like, is he going to draw the Cade assignment, and is he going to be up to task if the Knicks do face these guys? Like, obviously, we didn't see as much of it in this game because, like you said, like they had Deuce on him because it just semi made more sense, I guess, like just based off the personnel that was out there, considering Cade was going to be the main ball handler, and you still had these bigger players around. Like, so what are you going to do? Like, put Deuce on Tobias Harris? Like, that just doesn't really work. But from that perspective, it's like, you know, these kind of bigger guys, he got like really shoved around by Tatum in the Celtics game, and then getting, you know, bullied around by Harris a little bit. Like, it does make you wonder, Cade, with the way that he's playing right now, is he going to just completely just dominate this guy physically? I don't know if that's the case, but, you know, then it begs the question, well, are you going to have to then have OG on him? And then I think that is less than ideal. Like, I really do think if Mikal can succeed at that could potentially be a series helping thing, because having OG's off-ball presence and his help defense and everything else against a team that loves to get inside is going to be really key, especially if you want to try to keep Cat out of foul trouble and stuff like that against these guys. So hopefully it's not where you have to kind of like burn that card on having OG on Cade throughout a first round series. But we'll see when we get there, I guess. Let's move to the Precious section, then bring this one home, because I don't think this game needs that much more time, if I'm being completely honest. 18 points and 8 of 13 shooting for Precious, 10 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. I mean, just a fun game for him. Every time I'm ready to like completely write him off, he has a pretty solid game like this. Granted, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that Detroit, obviously the scouting report, once they saw the starting lineup, was like, just like that guy alone, don't even look at him. And look at him, they did not. I mean, he was just right from the beginning was just getting inside and scoring in there. Tried to stretch the floor as a shooter, but they didn't respect him at all, and he clearly didn't respect himself from there either, because he just did not look comfortable shooting threes. Most of them were not anywhere close. I will say the one development with him in this game versus other games, I feel like a lot of times they try to have him space out to the corner. In this game, they had him up like above the break, which was where he was taking the threes, which is probably less than ideal. But that, as far as giving him a little bit of a runway to get ahead of steam and get towards the hoop and then like make decisions out of that, not half bad. I thought that was a pretty nice little wrinkle of how to use him in this game. If they're insisting on having him start, which I didn't totally get that decision either. I mean, if Tibbs was dead set that he was going to get some PJ Tucker in there, just start PJ Tucker. It kind of would have made more sense to me, but whatever. They made it work to a degree. You could argue that, Precious getting all the opportunities and cashing in on them and, doing it somewhat efficiently was kind of just because he was being ignored, but he at least didn't go in there and just clang them, which we've seen him do that before too. So, with the hand that he was dealt, I thought he had a pretty solid game on both ends of the floor. I mean, offensively, yes, and that had to deal with the being ignored and whatever. But defensively, the 5 stocks pretty solid. He's no OG Anunoby, but it was a solid defensive effort too for the most part.
Yeah, he had the transition jam on Isaiah Stewart's head was nice to.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah, to the NBA's main enforcer. That was pretty sick. And then had another one where he blocked Cade and then got an and one transition jam off a cat dime. So there's some real high highs for Precious Achiuwa. I'll finish it off just shouting out Deuce one more time. Again, 5 for 18, 2 for 10. Not an ideal night shooting the ball. Probably a little overtaxed, being asked to be the lead guard against an elite defense with like non-NBA rotation players next to him for a stretch. That was challenging, but man, I don't know if you've seen those clips of like when the time when he stole the ball from Cade and got the transition layup on him when they were both in college as a big old Big 12 guy, not new Big 12 guy. Actually, a little bit new Big 12 guy, but that's neither here nor there. I found it fun that they were guarding each other this whole game. A couple of times we went at Cade, hit him with an in and out and the crossover, beat him for a layup, jab, stare down. Shot clock beating 3 in Cade's eye a few possessions later. So that was fun. Cade got him back a bunch. He was an absolute menace in the passing lanes. 4 steals, great off the ball. Should have had a 5th one. Stat that DJ Zulo tweeted out that was kind of concerning. Now on the year, Deuce is 41% on layups, 34% on fast break layups. So if you want a little ominous note to end on, that is unfortunate for a guy that I endorse a lot on this podcast, but it feels fitting for this night. He is Alex Wolfe. I'm Gavin Schall. We'll wrap up this slightly somber edition of the Locked On Knicks podcast. The Pacers have 2 more games against the Magic and the Cavs. They win 2. The Knicks lose 2. The Knicks fall to the 4th seed. We'll see if that happens next time on Locked On Knicks.